Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next generation of government training summit. Hello, my name is Emily, and I'm the director of NextGen and the events manager here at GovLoop. Thanks so much for joining us. And this marks our 16th year that we've hosted NextGen. Apparently, we're like a junior in high school now. And I can't wait to jump into a full day of content geared towards helping you master your professional development, whether you're a subject matter expert, a first time supervisor, aspiring to be one, or a longtime supervisor hoping to brush up on your skills. Well, you found the right place, and we are so excited to have you. But I would be remiss to not mention the state of the government workforce right now. As it stands this morning, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of federal employees are furloughed. Many more are working without pay. Their programs, missions, and day-to-day operations are halted or severely changed. And we know that those impacts are felt outside the federal government too. State and local government employees have seen their funding shift or be cut off during the shutdown and have worked diligently to keep essential services running. And it's not just the operations of government, of course, its impacts are on the very real lives of you, the government employees themselves. We know how hard this is. We know how hard you work every day. And today is meant to be a celebration of government work, and it will be. But before we get into the meat of today's summit, we just have to say from all of us at GovLoop, we are so sorry that you are going through this, and we're here to listen to your stories, to understand your pain points, and to help in any way that we can. And most importantly, we're here to say thank you. Thank you for the work that you do every day. The work you do is so important, and we so appreciate all that you do. So, with that said, to make this summit as good of an experience as it can be, we want you to share your experience with us in the chat or the Q&A box. And we want this experience to be as impactful as possible for you. So I'm going to go over a few housekeeping items for today's summit. So first things first, if you haven't already, please head over to the exhibit hall to visit our sponsors' booths. They make NextGen possible, so you don't want to miss out on those. We have additional resources available for you to download from the resource tab at the bottom of the screen, including this slide deck. You can also find all the slides and CPE forms for the entire summit in the Resource Center in the main environment. If you're in need of closed captioning feature, look for that closed captions icon along the bottom right hand of your screen. Of course, we hope you don't have any technical difficulties, but if you do, send us a message to that Q&A tab, and my colleague Maddie will get all of your questions answered. It's in that same Q&A portal where you can ask our experts questions and drop them in whenever you have them, because that's what today is all about. It's about answering your questions. We also have the open chat available for you today. Don't be shy. Go in there, say hello, tell us what you're thinking and feeling. I see everybody right now is telling us where they're logging in from. I see somebody from the great state of Ohio. I love to see that. That is where I am from, although I currently live in Maryland, so shout out to Maryland as well. But thank you all for already engaging in that chat. If you miss anything throughout the summit, don't fret. We'll email you the entire event tomorrow. That it will be sent directly to your inbox. You can watch the sessions again, download resources, all that good stuff. Also, as many of you know, we are giving out one continuing professional education credit for your participation in today's session. So here's how you're going to get that CPE credit. First, you're going to stay and participate in the entire session. You're not going to want to miss out on the content anyways. Second, you're going to take the 3 polling questions. And third, you're going to fill out that post-CPE evaluation, which you can find in the resources tab, both here in this environment and in the main virtual summit environment as well. The polls will appear on your screen as a pop-out, so select your responses and then click submit to put in your answer. All right, with all of that housekeeping out of the way, I want to send a special thank you to all of our NextGen Alliance partners. We have WAPA, Pluralsight, Code for America, and the National Association of Government Communicators. We couldn't put this summit on without them, so let's give them a round of applause. And while you are thanking our sponsors, I'm going to go ahead and launch our first poll. And for this one, just a reminder, you're going to click on that pop out. Oh, so many of you are already doing it. And for this one, we want to know, have you attended NextGen before? And give you about a minute or so to take this poll. And while you do, I want to talk a little bit about our first keynote. So here to talk about agency culture, how to define it, how to improve it, and how to manage it is Sabrina Amjad, who is a strategic government advisor. Sabrina, thanks so much for being with us today.
It's great to be here. Thank you, Emily. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. First and foremost, welcome. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Hopefully everyone has their first cup of coffee in hand, if you will. As you're coming in, if you will, Emily, is it okay to get started?
Of course, go for it.
Fantastic. Let's go. Let's go. I think we've got a lot of folks in the chat right now. As you're coming in, please feel free to drop your name maybe, and I see a lot of names, maybe your organization, maybe your role, and maybe even your email or LinkedIn profile so you can network with your peers while you're here today, right? Thank you for being here. What a privilege to be here, if you will, in a room of over a couple of hundred leaders, creators, and change makers who are shaping the future of how we work, lead, and live, especially during these turbulent times. I'm Sabrina Amjad, founder of Van Bree Consulting. We are an SB-approved firm based in Washington, D.C. I've worked across Middle East, North Africa, Asia, Europe, and Australia. I have spent the last 2 decades, if you will, helping leaders from public sector executives to private sector leaders, Wall Street, government, Fortune 500, and international missions navigate their highest stake moments. And I've learned that success doesn't just hinge on data or policy, or even the strength of the solution. Today isn't about learning what culture is. You probably know a lot about culture. You've been in organizations, your senior leaders, your midline, your frontline. It's about harnessing the power of culture. Because in every high-stakes setting, your words can either trigger clarity or confusion, momentum or resistance, right? Let's get into it. So let's talk about the moment we're in. Whether you're in government or private industry, culture doesn't just show up in the easy moments. You know that. It shows up in the moments of consequence. One leader, one decision made in a silo, and the entire trajectory of your culture can change. And the bar is rising. Excuse me. Today, your audience is looking for the speed of Amazon, but the clarity of a TED Talk, even from their government counterparts, especially, if you will, right? And inside organizations, stakeholders want less explanation, but more insight. Fewer resources, but better results, right? Here's the reality. Most culture don't fail because of strategy. They fail because they stopped believing the change included them. Gartner actually puts it at a 70% failure rate. And from my own work across federal agencies, global banks, Wall Street, and global ministries, I've seen it time and time again. The teams were smart, the strategy solid, but the people were not ready because the culture did not exist. So let me take a moment to ground into talking a little bit about where I've been and why it matters now more than ever. I started in Washington, D.C., supporting federal agencies, navigating waves of shifting mandates. I like to call them conflicting mandates, if you will. Back then, it was digital modernization. Remember those days we're going from paper-based processes to automation, right? Are we still doing that? Some of us are maybe still doing that. Then we went to moving our data into the cloud, called it cloud migration, if you will, right? Then it was who has access to our data? Why do they have access to our data? I like to call it compliance chaos, right? AI is the age of now, right? So public agents, I was helping public agencies move from that compliance chaos to commitment culture. But the truth is, the pattern has not changed. Complexity is still a given constant, and many leaders are still anchored to legacy systems and inherited cultures that reward control over courage. In New York, I worked at the intersection of regulation and customer experience. We flipped the culture narrative from internal process to external impact. How's it going to affect us? What does it mean for me? And that shift unlocked faster buy-in, deeper adoption. Regulators listened. Executives moved because the culture had shifted. Across every region I've worked, from the Department of Veterans Affairs to the justice modernization efforts in Abu Dhabi to QB Insurance in Sydney, Australia, the pattern has been the same. If anything, it's taught me this. Impact followed when the culture and/or story got clearer. Let me repeat that. Impact followed when your culture or your atmosphere got clearer. Let's get more into it. So, what is culture in terms of where we stand? Culture is the pulse of your organization. It is the energy people feel when they walk into a room. It's how we treat each other when no one else is watching, right? It's the stories we tell about who we are and who we hope to be one day. Let's connect that to something we do know. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Think about starting with your basic needs, your physiological needs, if you will. Food, water, rest, your basic survival, right? When you have those met, then you go on to your safety needs. Security, stability, structure, protection from harm, if you will. Once your safety needs are met, you move on to love and belonging, which is that connection, acceptance. What is the community you live in? What does that inclusion look like? From there, it's self-esteem. Where's the respect, the recognition? You look for status and/or self-worth. The top of that pyramid, self-actualization, focuses on growth, creativity, fulfillment, purpose. This is where we do our boldest, most creative, and most courageous work. Now, picture you've walked into your agency, right? Maybe your office, your team meeting. The atmosphere feels cold. You're not sure, especially maybe since we're going through a shutdown right now, if you can be honest, The environment is unsettling at best. You don't know if anyone is really on your side. In that moment, you're not reaching for your potential. You're just trying to survive. That's why culture matters. Because it tells you whether you will rise up or get stuck at the bottom. And that's what's wild about it. Most people don't leave organizations because of pay. They leave because they feel invisible, disrespected, maybe even unsafe sometimes. Culture decides who stays, who grows, and who dares to lead. Not the mission statement, not the org chart. It's the moments that matter. So, is leadership a title? It's no longer a title, it's actually a choice. Each of us, regardless of where we sit, shapes the experiences of others. Leadership is no longer the title that was given to you. It has to be the choice you decide to make. Culture isn't owned by the CEO or by the department heads. It's co-authored by you and your team every day in moments of courage, kindness, accountability, every thank you, every idea welcomed, every time you choose integrity over ease. That's leadership. As a leader, what you accept becomes your culture. What you measure becomes reality. What you reward becomes your movement within your organization. That's the pattern you're teaching as a leader every day to your team, whether you intend to or not. So the question becomes, if culture is built on behavior, what kind of behavior dictates the future? Let's dive in. So the future, believe it or not, you may have not already known this, belongs to the brave. Leadership is really just courage in motion. And courage doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It can look like small acts. Start with maybe setting that tone through actions and announcements. Maybe start with asking better questions. What about creating a safe space where everybody feels safe, even when the system feels unsafe? Maybe making space for new voices. Why not try rotating who gives the debrief next time? They have to gain the experience too, right? And what about having the courage to stop rewarding silence? Maybe inviting feedback respectfully, right? So having the courage to drive high standards, but doing it with empathy and grace. How you ask, how you listen, how you include drives your performance legacy. How you want to be perceived as a midline, frontline, as a leader, and how you do it with intention. So we keep calling culture the soft side of things, or soft side of change, if you will. It's actually the delivery engine. It's the motor that makes the entire organization hum. It's not soft. If anything, when you build culture, you're just not managing morale. You're building momentum. You're creating connection and stability so that your performance becomes sharper. Think about it. Safety creates stability for you, right? The sense that I can speak up without getting punished or penalized. That's powerful. Belonging creates connection. I know where I fit. I love the mission that I support, and I'm part of something bigger. Think about your Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And then esteem creates that momentum. My work matters. I matter. And I'm trusted to make the right decisions. That's powerful for your performance and your purpose. So I have a challenge for you. You don't need a task force to change culture. You just need 10 days. Do this maybe when after the government reopens. Instead of, what's the status? And why isn't it complete? Why not ask your team member, is there a way to make this easier for you? What can I do to help you? Where can we go together from this? How do you see we can get to that goal together as a team? Maybe, what about you say, I saw how you handle that challenge. Thank you for staying with it. What about focusing on the effort, not the outcome? Right? Maybe starting to praise your team, your leaders, your peers in public versus private. Track what happens when you do that. The engagement, the tone, the speed of decision making, the room will start to sound different. And when it does, you will feel it. When you build in empathy, I promise you, your team's performance will rise and they will notice you in a good way. So this brings us to, what kind of culture do you want to leave behind? Remember the culture you implemented? It becomes your legacy, your performance power, if you will. Why not try to find your voice? Take the charge. Change the room and shape the future, not just for yourself, but your organization, because it's your presence that's going to change how the organization is shifting. Maybe they will start looking at you as the voice of reason. Maybe you're already the voice of reason. But as you go through that, we know this is an interesting time, as Emily has mentioned earlier. For that, if you were to go into our website, we've built something to help you along. It's called our VanBree presentation, activation playbook, if you will. We have this robust VanBree playbook, and it's a fast filter of that. What we talked about culture, we have adoption methodologies behind it, which helped re-engage 90% of disengaged leaders. It actually unlocked $38 million in stalled funding. It helped accelerate decisions 6 times faster from baseline, all free for you to download. Go on to vanbreellc.com. How do you use it? Based on what we talk about, use the executive 5% brief. Craft your next update to sharpen your message, your tone, into a strategic ask. Try the human friction map. See where resistance is slowing progress. Maybe bring the call to action slide to build that strong close so you can really go out and see where your message lands. And as you're going into it, if you're having issues, we know, as I said, the crazy times we're in right now, where everything is in flux and we don't know what's going away, what's coming back, and how it may impact you. Please know you don't have to go it alone. If you're in complex culture, facing pressure, or just need to reframe fast, please reach out. We're based in the DC area. We want to do something for our government peers, especially who are on this call, especially now. It's completely free, by the way. No pressure, no prep, just come as you are. We know the churn within government is very real. Maybe you need a neutral third party voice when internal dynamics are blocking you. Maybe you need clarity when decisions are feeling foggy. Or maybe a little bit of leadership relief so you leave feeling lighter, more focused, ready to lead forward. Because when public leaders like you have the right tools and support, change doesn't just get talked about, it gets done. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope to meet and get to know each and every one of you. Emily, back to you.
Well, thanks, Sabrina. And I know we talked about the fact that you weren't going to take a question, but I'm going to do it to you anyways because I'm a rebel
Sure.
and I live in this rebel world.
Absolutely.
Um, so really quick, we got a couple questions in here talking about this from an individual contributor standpoint. And I think your presentation did a great job kind of talking about how you can power the culture as an individual. But a lot of people are feeling really isolated or alone right now. How can this conversation around culture help the individual in this process?
That's a great question, Emily. In this age of where we do remote working, where back to work is still trickling in, if you will, post-COVID, we have gotten into this where we are very much trained to work from an individual sense. So this is where I would say we really need to take note of. Who is sort of, who are the people around you that you're supporting? Making sure you know that team around you looks like, and how are you supporting them. The thing is, it has to be a quid pro quo in a way where you have to put in the work. If you don't put in the tools and the time and the resources, you're not going to be able to see that culture definition. You're not going to be asked to come in and say, hey, this is a great culture, come in, step into this room. Even
Yeah.
remote, if you're by yourself, build internally, who's your network, who's within your team. And externally, what I tend to actually do, and I've suggested this to all the people that I mentor, is build an external network. Go through your LinkedIn. If you're not LinkedIn, go outside, find 3 to 4 industry leaders that you really like. Emily, one more thing. I remember back at Deloitte, I'm ex-Deloitte, ex-Ernst & Young, ex-Booz Allen. When I was in my Deloitte days, one of the senior partners there said, you can have as many sponsors or mentors as you have numbers of shoes. For a girl, that could be many. Thing is, if you have every week 2 to 3 people that you reach out to and you say, hey, how's it going? You have built your internal network. You're building the culture. You're building the support system. Hopefully that answers your question, Emily.
It does. And just as a side note, Sabrina, if you want to come to my house and read bedtime stories to me, I would love it. The cadence of the way you talk is wonderful, and I just want you to read me stories all day, every day. But thank you, Sabrina, so much for kicking off our summit today.
Thank you so much, Emily. It was an absolute pleasure.
All right. The second poll question is up right now. And for this one, we want to know how has your role shifted in the last year? So I'm going to leave that up while I introduce our second keynote of the hour. And for this one, we're going to talk about the 5 skills you need to thrive in government. And joining us to talk about this is Dan Bradley. He just retired from the federal workforce. So congratulations, Dan, on your retirement. And now he is over at Booz Allen Hamilton. So with that, Dan, I'm going to hand the floor over to you.
Great. Thank you, Emily. So I'm Dan Bradley, and I'll be speaking to you on 5 skills you need to thrive in government. And our theme is a choose your own adventure. That's kind of how our careers work. If you're from my generation, you recognize these books, but in case you don't, we're going to come to some decision points throughout our briefing where you'll have to make choices, and they're going to impact your family, your career, and what it means to thrive. So let's press on. So what does it what does it mean to thrive? Well, I broke out the dictionary and found out the Old Norse roots of thrive means to grasp or get a hold of. And so we're trying to climb, we're trying to go to the next level. That might be another grade, a promotion, extra pay. Extra pay is a good thing. I always like to get extra pay. And so you put in those long hours, you have all that stress, and let's say that you climb that ladder. You get the high score, so to speak. You're a 15, or maybe you're even an SES, and then you retire. Maybe you've got a retirement. Things are great. Next slide. Doesn't seem to want to advance for me. And so you have a small retirement ceremony, a sheet cake from Costco, and a bunch of people show up for free cake. Will anyone remember your name in 6 months? And I'm not trying to diminish the accomplishments of those who raise to the highest levels in government. My point is simply we have to be motivated more by something more than the sheet cake from Costco. And so what does it really mean to thrive? What are we about? What are your values? As I talk about skills that have helped me over my career, towards what end? Jack Welch has this quote, and I know he's not a popular figure, feelings about Jack, but he says there's no such thing as work-life balance. And so immediately, like, what are you talking about? Work-life balance, it's critical. You're wrong, Jack. Well, let him finish the sentence before you get angry. There are work-life choices. You make them, and they have consequences. And in his book, he tells the story. He says, I was so invested in General Electric and the amazing things we got done at GE, my first wife left me. But then he goes on to say, I don't regret my choices. We did amazing things at GE. Now, I appreciate his self-reflection and candor there. That doesn't reflect my values. So my point here is we talk about these skills in your career. You need to make informed choices of what matters to you. And Jack basically said GE was the most important thing in his life. And he went all in on that. I'd like to think I've made different choices. So I'm going to share skills that resonate with me based on my experience. So let me quickly tell you who I am. And there's one thing I'm confident of is you're not me. You're probably nothing like me. My undergrad, I did a liberal arts undergrad. I know some of you rushed through your degree in 4 years. I was more thorough. I took 8 years. Okay, maybe thorough is not the right word. Anyway, eventually I graduated from college and I went to seminary. And then I decided I'm not called to the ministry, and I dropped out of seminary and decided to get into computers. So, a really strong foundation for a career in government cyber. Got a temp job answering the phone, turned that into a data analyst position, turned that into a programming job because I wanted to just automate all the things. Can't be bothered with doing the work. I want to create programs to do the work. Use that job to get a job as a pen tester in the government. Like, whoa, that was a seriously awesome opportunity. And then from there progressed to GS15 and made a conscious decision not to pursue senior executive ranks. So my last 12 years in the government, I was a 15. And that reflected my personal values, the mission I like doing, and my desire to have all that leave. And so over the course of my career, I got to live in Hawaii for 4 years where the drinks have umbrellas in them. I got to support Central Command where the drinks do not have umbrellas. I mean, honestly, the TDYs are a lot better in Hawaii. And then along the way, I also got all kinds of amazing benefits from my civil service career. They paid for my master's in network security. Every time there was an empty seat in the class, I'm like, yeah, give me that seat. I'll take that. And I'd take that class and they'd come with a voucher and I'd take that certification. Over the course of over 2 decades, I built out quite a pile of certifications. And even though it had no direct benefit on most of the jobs that I had, I kept paying those maintenance fees. But you know what? It's actually paid off for other work. And then humorously enough, when I took Myers-Briggs back in the 90s, I was an INTJ, I was an introvert. But over the course of working in government cyber, around 2010 or so, when I take Myers-Briggs, I was an ENTJ. Now, I'm still an introvert at heart, but for professional purposes, I play the part of an extrovert. Now, after all that, 2025 hit and returned to office. I was working for an agency that's a long way from home. I didn't have the option of commuting in 5 days a week. And I thought, you know what? It's time. I'm taking it. I took the DRP, I took the early retirement, and landed this job that I have with Booz Allen. So that's kind of my background. I am a nerd. I'm a cyber guy. And I have kind of an unconventional background in getting there. So I'm going to share my experience and skills that have resonated in my career. And these may be terrible things for you to do if you're in a very different role and are a very different person. So whenever you come to this kind of thing, always listen to the speaker skeptically and use what's useful and ignore what's not. Certainly that's true for what I'll be sharing with you. So bottom line, there's only one you. You can't be working late in the office and also be at your kid's soccer game. You can't be off in some adventure somewhere in CENTCOM and also be there for help your kids with their homework in the evening. So life is full of choices, and some of those choices are hard. Let's jump into our skills. Okay, so first skill, be multilingual. So your customers, what do they care about? You may not be able to use jargon with them. You need to be clear. You need to listen to them. Your coworkers, jargon, acronyms, nerd out, dive into all the details. Great. Your boss, even if you've got a great relationship with your boss, you may want to be intentional about how you communicate and how you engage with that. Now, your boss's boss and people well above your boss, you really need to be thoughtful about your communications. And that leads us to our first decision point in our choose your own adventure. Tomorrow is a big briefing with the deputy director. To prepare for that briefing, what are you going to do? Because you're on the line. It's your briefing. You know what? I think I'll go home early, get a good night's rest. But I got to be sharp for this briefing. Not an entirely wrong mindset. You should be sharp. You may have to think on your feet. Turn to page 53. Maybe instead you choose to stay till the end of the day, prepping as much detail as possible. Turn to page 19. Or you do that, but then you also stay an hour later and create that single one-page summary that distills everything. And then you lead the briefing with that. Hint, turn to page 23. That's the right answer. You see, you may be talking about something that is the most important topic of you. You've been working it for 18 months. You are an expert in this topic. It's the thing that matters the most to you. But guess what? The senior executive you're talking to, it's probably not even the most important thing on their afternoon calendar. And their time is precious. So when you go into that meeting, lead with the lead. Be clear, be concise, be cogent. If you can get to the point in one slide, get to the point in one slide. If it takes 2 slides, fine. But if you do that and you respect their time, when you're 30 seconds or a minute or two into that, they may start asking questions. They may get so engaged that the meeting runs over. That's what success looks like. What does failure look like? You go in there and you dump a bunch of details on them and you prattle on and you just take a complex topic and you make it even more complex. The meeting will probably get cut off early because you're wasting their time. So we need to tailor our message to the audience. And the message is going to be very different depending on who we're talking to. Next slide. So the point is, getting things done requires effective communication. If you're building a tower to the heavens, everybody's got to talk or progress will stop. If you're trying to get a government project done, then being multilingual, speaking everyone's language, aligning the efforts is absolutely critical to progress. The slides aren't good. Next slide. So for our next skill, next slide. Say yes. To what? Well, say yes to new challenges at work. Say yes to new adventures at home. This is your life. You are living it right now. Don't fall into the trap of plodding along, laboring some vague point in the future so you can, at some point in the future, have the life that you want. You're living your life right now in the present. Next slide. But there you go, that one. This picture is from Annapolis Rocks on the Appalachian Trail. It's an overlook on the Appalachian Trail from this past Saturday. It was a beautiful sunset. The weather was perfect. The leaves were turning. And I had a choice to make. I could bring these slides along with me and I could practice so I could make a great performance for all of you. But I said, you know what? I'm exhausted. I'm going to actually take the weekend off. So in that choice, in that case, I made that choice. I don't regret that choice. It was a wonderful weekend with boys and dads. They're rock climbing, rappelling. Be intentional. Make your choices. Next slide. Here's another example of when I chose my personal life over work. As a civil servant, I had lots of leave. I coordinated with my leadership. I said, hey, I'm going to go on this section hike of the Appalachian Trail with my daughter. We took 23 days, hiked 276 miles. And because of the timing of the project I was working, we had some critical things that were going to happen while I was somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And I went anyway. And actually, it had a negative impact on the project. I don't regret it. I've got that. I had that time with my daughter. It was awesome. It was a great experience. This is a view from Max Patch shortly after hiking through the Smokies. We went from Springer Mountain in Georgia all the way to Hot Springs in North Carolina. Next slide. Now, lest you think that I'm just all about taking leave and neglecting work, I'm at work and somebody's like, hey, we need a cyber briefing in Kuwait. I said, oh, pick me. I hear it's sandy there. And so I went to Kuwait and I did that briefing. And it was more than just sandy. It was absurdly hot. And so I said, you know what? I think I could actually do more of this. And I ended up deploying for 9 months to do a bunch of other interesting stuff. Now, that was hard on my family. That my daughter, it was her senior year, so I missed my daughter's senior year of high school. I don't know that I regret it though. I made that decision with the family, talked to my wife, and we made it work. So sometimes the answer is to say yes to doing crazy stuff at work. That leads us to our next page. You see a vacancy for a temporary position that's a perfect fit for your skills. It will require long hours, being away from your family for a few months, and uncomfortable living conditions, but it could be good for your career. So what do? Family first, hard pass. That's a good option. If that reflects your values, choose that page. Maybe you ask for more details. Take a measured response. Or maybe it's like, you know what? Career always, I'm going for it. Turn to page 35. Well, uh, I'm not sure if I did page answer 2 or answer 3, but one time when I have 4 kids, the youngest was 4 months old, and I'm sitting in the back of an airplane over Pakistan, flying to Afghanistan, reflecting on my life choices as my 4-month-old is at home with my wife. Now, professionally, I packed 5 years worth of amazing cyber experience into 6 months overseas. And so it wasn't easy, but my wife doesn't regret that choice, and I don't either. And so the choices we make pay dividends in our family and at work, but there's only one you. So you make those choices in an informed way. Our next one, be a trustworthy rebel. Now, I got the rebel part down. I'm always looking for creative ways to do things. Out of the box thinking, heck, I will burn that box to the ground as soon as you turn your back. Innovation, I'm all about innovation. The status quo should feel threatened. But you also need your leadership to trust you. When your organization makes a decision, this is where we're going, this is the goal, you can be creative on the implementation. You can even be a little crazy with how you get after it. Totally new approach, but keep your leadership in the loop. They need to trust you. So we have to strike this interesting balance of being a bit of a rebel, doing those innovative things, while at the same time, leadership needs to know they can trust you. So that's the balance we have to strike. I think I've struck that balance over my career. I've certainly thrown some surprises in my leadership as well. Next skill here. This one is a tough one to talk about in 2025, but I'm just going to plow right in. So job security is you. It's not where you work. I remember I was walking by someone's desk and I heard somebody say, well, I don't know what's going to happen with this project, but at least we're govies, so we don't have to worry about our job. And some manager heard him. He said, what did you say? He said, well, we're govies. We've got secure employment. And he said, that is the wrong way to think about it. You want job security? It's you. It's who you are. It's the skills you bring to the table. And I firmly believe in that. Now, I am blessed to be working for Booz Allen Hamilton, a 110-year-old company. So does that equate to job security? Or did I have job security because I was a civil servant prior to that? That's the wrong way to think about job security. Job security is the skills, the background, the network, what you bring to the table, and your ability to sell that. You see, if you are somebody that is known for getting things done, if you're somebody that everyone wants to work with, if you're someone that leaves a trail of success behind you, you've got job security because there are lots of other people that are eager to have you on on their team. And I spent 24 years plodding along my civil service career, and I didn't really think about my network. But then in February, when I had to find a new job, I had people coming out of the woodwork saying, Dan, I enjoyed working with you. Would love to have you on the team. Or I had folks go, I don't have anything permanent, but I got some 1099 work. That I was floored. I hadn't thought about a network. I hadn't even been intentionally building one. But the people that I'd work with, and I know you might say, well, that's easy for you to say. You've got a master's in cybersecurity and you've got all those certifications. Sorry, let's cut back to the 90s. I was a seminary dropout with a liberal arts degree. Okay, so my point here is I don't care what your background is. You can build job security one decision at a time. Focus on your career, focus on building the skills you need to be in demand, and focus on helping everyone around you. But there's another reason to think of your job security in these terms. And that is because sometimes your job itself might be secure. You're employed, but you're working in an awful situation. It might be a difficult boss or a coworker or some kind of mission circumstances, and it's miserable. And I've been there. I've been in that job where I think I might have worked for one of the worst managers in the entire world, and you feel trapped. It's horrible. So why do you feel trapped? Because you're not thinking big picture. What if instead of feeling trapped, this becomes a catalyst to look for your next opportunity? And instead of just settling for anything you can find to escape, you find that thing that's a tremendous opportunity that you would leave your current position even if you had the best boss in the world. So that's how I try to think about this. Is like, I'm not going to let a toxic personality or a difficult boss or a difficult situation make my career decisions for me. Instead, they might prompt me to start looking around, but I'm going to jump when I find an amazing opportunity. So I, I know this is a sensitive topic for us in 2025, but I honestly believe when we think about job security, don't think about it as something that someone else gives to you. Think about it as something that you build for yourself. Next skill, help others always. And I know what you're thinking. If I help everybody else, then they might get promoted and I'm kind of competing with them. That's the wrong way to think about it. What if everybody in your office gets promoted before you and you were the one that made it happen? Well, congratulations. You've had an amazing impact. You've helped a lot of people. Every one of them knows that you helped them. And the customers and other organizations around you, they know it. They know that you are the glue that's making everything happen. So play the long game. Be that kind of person. Because if you're that kind of person, at some point, someone's like, I don't know why they haven't promoted you. You are amazing. Come join my team. I need you to do what you did for that organization for us. So help others always. Be that kind of person. Is it more work? Absolutely, it's more work. I mean, I guess the only threshold might be is if you look up and you realize, I'm not doing my own job. Don't get yourself fired because you're so busy doing helping other people succeed. But short of that, be all in on helping everybody else. You can't go wrong with that. Now, I'm supposed to do 5 skills, but I admit I'm a bit of a rebel. So I'm actually slipping in a sixth one here, and I'm an engineer, so I get to use 0. So you've all heard the phrase, work smarter, not harder. Well, I'm going to tweak that. Work smarter and harder. Because I've worked in some places where it was impossible to be the smartest person in the room. If that was my strategy, I was going to fail dramatically. So I take my inspiration from the beaver. Let's talk about beavers. I mean, look at that head. There's not a lot of room for a big brain in a beaver. I don't know. I've never given an IQ test to a beaver, but I suspect that they're not the smartest animal in the woods. But you know what they can do? They can devastate a valley of trees. They can chew down every tree, drag them everywhere, dam up the whole valley. There's flooding, massive impact. Beavers are awesome through sheer tenacity and hard work. So if you really want to thrive, pick what matters to you, define what it means to thrive, and be like that beaver. Throw yourself at it. You may never be the smartest person in the room, but you can be the hardest working person in the room. So thank you so much for the privilege of sharing my thoughts and some of the lessons that resonated with me. Take the ones that are helpful, ignore the ones that aren't. I'm deeply thankful for the time I spent in the government. It provided tremendous opportunities, made some amazing missions, built some great skills. And I hope that your civil service career can be as rewarding as mine was. I appreciate every one of you and what you're doing. That's a QR code for my LinkedIn. I also dropped a link in chat. You're welcome to reach out. And as I wrap this up, I'll cut over to actually pay attention to chat and answer any questions. Thank you so much. And definitely enjoy the rest of the event. We've got some great speakers lined up.
Well, thanks so much, Dan. And we would all be remiss if we did not notice that you have a person, a cutout hovering over your head who was part of this presentation alongside us. So you do get credit for having the best background
Well,
here.
so it turns out that that's Lumberg. I used the wrong cover sheet for the TPS reports. I can forward you the memo, Emily. I've also got my red stapler right here.
Oh, fantastic. All right. So Dan, I do have two quick questions for you. And the first is, I think when you're flying on a plane, right? They always say put your own oxygen mask on before helping the person next to you, which as a parent can be really off-putting. You're right. Like you're like, I'm gonna save my kid first. And I think a lot of folks, and I think your presentation lends to this, want to help someone else before they help themselves. What is one piece of advice you have for figuring out where you want to go next? Because in your presentation you talked about how you went from the ministry all the way to CISA here and anything and everything in between.
Yeah.
Finding your own passion in this part of the process is difficult. Any advice for unearthing your own areas of expertise? Because sometimes that can be hard to navigate.
So this is where I could pretend that my entire career was this carefully orchestrated plan. I'm going to start as a pen tester, then I'll become a security engineer, then I'll move into this role, then I'll do security operations. Oh my gosh, that would be such a lie. Instead, what I did is at every step along the way, I was just kept my head up. I'm looking around and I'm like, what opportunities are out there? And when I saw them, like, hey, I could put in for that. Like when I went to Hawaii, it was a job I wasn't allowed to apply for, but the system didn't stop me from applying. And the senior's like, oh, go ahead and apply anyway. You'd be great. And so I applied, and HR's like, you're not allowed to apply for this. I said, well, I did. They're like, yeah, you won't get selected. You're too low. And I spent 4 years in Hawaii. The point being, in terms of how do you make those choices, I frankly have no idea except that you make them.
Yeah.
And keep your head up, look around for opportunities. And actually, this is important. I didn't fit this into the skills, but this one's really important. As you think about that next job, I know we all think about we want to mitigate our weaknesses. Be careful there. Don't pick a job that plays to your weaknesses. Take your strengths and do something new that leverages those strengths, and learn a new environment. So I'm always trying to play to my strengths. I would not be a good PM. You do not need me dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. You want someone to burn things to the ground and innovate and change things. I love doing that. I'm an idea guy. So play to your strengths, look for those new opportunities to take your strengths and put them in an entirely different environment. And if you keep doing that and you keep moving around, you'll look up after 20 years and you'll be like, wow, I've kind of done a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I have a 3-year-old who, if you have a 3-year-old, sometimes you watch the same movie 4,000 times in a row in like a month. And the movie that we're currently obsessed with is Frozen 2, not Frozen 1, Frozen 2. And they've got this line in Frozen 2, if you don't know what to do, do the next right thing. And I think about this all the time because if you were to live in this noggin of mine, Dan, all you would hear is, well, what do we do next? What's the next step? How do we get from point A to point B? What is December going to look like? What about January? How about Thursday? I don't know. There's too much going on. And so when I slow down and I think, what is the next right thing I need to do? It really helps me frame that. And I think that helps with career decisions too. I don't have to plan the next 30 years. I can just plan the next right thing for me.
And it's okay to make some mistakes and adjust from there. I've said yes to a lot of things, and not everything in hindsight was the best choice. But if you play the long game and you zoom out, there are always adjustments. So and there, once again, if you're throwing yourself at every job you do, you build a history where there are folks that want you on their team. And so even if you make a career pivot that ends up being a big mistake, it's okay. do what you can to make it successful, and then start looking for that next move, and you can adjust from there.
Love it. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for sharing your insights with us today. A few quick reminders for our entire attendees here before we go into our next session. So, the first thing is I do have the third poll question up right now. So, if you could take that poll before you log off, that would be great. Also, don't forget to take that CPE survey. There is going to be a CPE survey for every session you attend, so make sure you are completing each one of those if you're looking to get that CPE credit. But up next, we've got round one of our breakout sessions, and you've got a wealth of options to choose from. You've got everything from money management skills to resilient teams, working with challenging personalities, decision making, and networking. There are a lot of great options in here, so make sure you take one of those. In the meantime, you've got about 20 minutes before our next session starts. Make sure you head over to that exhibit hall. That's where you'll find all of our NextGen sponsors. There are a wealth of fantastic resources there to unpack, including a wellness guide that the GovLoop team has put together, and some resources around the shutdown to help you navigate this transition in whatever capacity that is. There's also plenty of resources from our wonderful sponsors as well. But I just want to thank both Sabrina and Dan for sharing their insights with us today and for kicking off NextGen. Our next session, like I said, starts in about 20 minutes. So I'll see you over there. And this session will be ready on demand in about a half an hour. So if you want to watch it again, maybe you missed the first half or something like that, by all means, come back in here and click around. All right, have a great rest of your summit, and we'll see you throughout the day. Bye, everybody.